All right, let's dive right into this explainer. We're about to completely flip how you perceive the universe, starting with the mind-bending idea that reality is not some random physical accident, but an actual executable code. According to the source material we're exploring today, a text known as the White Book, we have been looking at language, physics, and reality from the completely wrong end of the telescope. We're going to break down an incredibly fascinating framework that suggests you're not just a passenger on a floating rock. You are the author of reality itself, running a local rendering engine with every single word you speak.
So here's our architectural blueprint for today. We'll start with reality as written code, move into the 9-layer Genesis stack, zoom in on layer 8, the consonant code, then unmask something called the verb illusion, and finally wrap up with mastering the rendering engine. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. Reality as written code. Correcting a 2,400-year-old error. To really get this, we have to start by fixing a massive 2-millennial-old error in human perception.
For literal millennia, Western thought has operated on the assumption that physical things are the foundation of reality, right? And that mathematics is just some abstract tool we invented to describe them. But what if we've got that completely backward? Think about a field with 4 cows. The biological category of a cow is totally subjective. It's just a human-agreed classification. It relies on our shared opinion. But the number 4? That is objectively true, whether you exist to observe it or not. The math is the actual bedrock reality. The physical object is just our subjective label for it.
So the huge takeaway here is that mathematics isn't just describing reality. It's the fundamental code that actually writes it. Absolute nothingness, like zero of everything, is a mathematical impossibility. Existence absolutely has to exist. It's a logical necessity. And because of that, this underlying code was never invented by anyone. It was discovered.
Moving to Section 2. The 9-layer Genesis stack, the architecture of experience. If math writes reality, how do we get from abstract numbers to the physical world we experience?
Well, this stack walks us through it step by step. It goes from the absolute dawn of life and awareness, down through postulates and math, into logic and logicism, then pictorial rendering, all the way down to modern silicon transistor gates. It all starts at layer 1 with consciousness, that prime substrate that senses, retains, and decides. This awareness acts as the engine, dropping us right into layer 2, which is where things get truly architectural.
Layer 2 is the postulate. Think of this as a raw, source-level command from consciousness just saying, let this be. A postulate is not just a belief or an assumption. It is a literal execution. It is you operating at the deepest operating system level, deciding what must be real.
And here's how they build the world. These postulates iterate through a structured sequence. When 2 commands conflict, say one says I must speak and another says I must hide, they clash and they freeze. This frozen conflict literally generates physical mass, and from that frozen state emerges quantity, numbers, and the Boolean logic of X and not X. That logic is what flows all the way down the rest of the stack, governing human games, computer programming, and ultimately becoming the silicon in our devices today.
All right, Section 3, Layer 8, Consonant Code, the executable layer. We are zooming in on Layer 8 now, written letters. This is the practical, executable application of that entire mathematical architecture.
Before we had Python or C++, we had the alphabet. And according to the texts, the alphabet is a highly structured programming language. There are exactly 22 core consonant sounds, and they act as the precise executable commands of those original postulates, mapped straight to a numerical matrix. They're the actual geometry of meaning. And how do we execute this geometry? We do it through our bodies.
Think of your mouth as a literal 3D printer. You are physically creating mathematical containment and energy flow with every single syllable. When you speak, you aren't just making arbitrary noises. You are physically mocking up the reality of a concept right there in the biomechanical topology of your vocal tract. Let's actually test this code out together right now. Try humming the letter M. Your lips close, right? You physically trap air and energy to create a material resonance. Matter, mass, mother, moon. The exact definition of material substance is physically demonstrated by your mouth. Now try B. Close your lips, build pressure, and burst. You just created a physical boundary and broke it. Body, box, barn, border. A defined space built for what it contains. And N, your tongue hits the roof of your mouth, and air continuously flows out your nose. It's the ongoing flow,
The continuation.
Just think about how one single consonant changes reality. Take the words spread and spray. They both start with SPR, meaning spreading and projecting outward. But spread ends with a firm D. The action hits its destination and stops. Spray ends with a Y. The action just keeps going. One letter difference, one massive shift in the reality being rendered. Position is literally meaning.
Which brings us to Section 4, Unmasking the Verb Illusion, How Grammar Hides Reality. Because if consonants are the code, then grammar is the structural architecture of how that code is deployed, and sometimes how it's used to trap us.
The source text talks about an exclusion anchor. In our minds, this anchor operates completely invisibly to maintain a chronic condition without us ever noticing it. It's the hidden, conflicting postulate keeping a psychological game locked in a frozen state, totally outside your awareness. And obviously, you can't resolve a problem if you can't see the anchor holding it down.
Well, verbs in our everyday grammar do exactly the same thing. The verb is literally the exclusion anchor of language. It hides the underlying reality of a noun inside an implied motion. When a verb replaces a noun, existence is excluded. Think about the phrase, "the government decided." Decided what? What is the actual thing? By using a verb, the existence of the decision, as a tangible, bounded object, is completely hidden from view. Check out this paradigm shift. When you say, "I am depressed," that verb traps you. It implies a state of being that is unbounded and infinite. You literally are it. But shift the language, turn it into a noun. The depression in me. Suddenly, you aren't the depression anymore. It's a noun. It is a thing. It has edges and a location.
When you speak in nouns, you bind reality into a form with edges, which allows you to examine it and ultimately dissolve your frozen conflicts. The text highlights this as the ultimate linguistic resolution. A verb hides existence because it spreads it out through time. A noun reveals it, marks it, and bounds it. And whatever has edges can be held up to the light, addressed, and finally let go.
Finally, Section 5, Mastering the Rendering Engine, the Horizon of Coherency. We've traced this incredible architecture from the mathematical bedrock down through the postulates into the 3D printer of your mouth and uncovered the psychological traps of grammar. So, what do we actually do with all this?
Well, the biggest takeaway is that you are not a passenger. You are not a victim of some random mathematical universe. You are the author. You are the one running the code and iterating reality with every single word you speak. Every thought is a decision about reality. Every word is a physical execution of that math. The ultimate goal here is optimal coherency, achieving a state of harmonic stability. And you are the one holding the pen.
I highly encourage you to verify this code for yourself at these links. The author of the White Book invites everyone to test the consonant code to feel the physical truth of the letters in your own mouth and to see how this architecture maps perfectly onto your daily experience. Learn to master your own local rendering engine. Which leaves us with one massive, ultimate question. If your mouth is a 3D printer writing the mathematical code of reality, what will you choose to render next? You have the tools now to unconfound your language and dissolve frozen mass. You are an author of the unified field. Until next time, keep exploring and write it well.